Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Maria Johansson, and I'm one of the alumni relations managers here at Lund University. And I'm here to give you a warm welcome to this session on CVs and cover letters. That's going to be hosted by our colleague, Susanne Linné, at our employability team. I'm first going to give you some quick information and some housekeeping rules for this event. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. All right. Some quick information about this session. If you have any questions, you're very welcome to post them in the Q&A function. We will receive questions during the whole event, so very welcome to just start asking whenever you want to. Links, important information from us will be published in the chat, so keep an eye on that as well. This webinar is recorded and will be available through YouTube for 2 weeks, and you will receive the links in a couple of days' time. Alumni relations and the employability team, we're in the same team, and we have quite a few upcoming career events this autumn. Next week, you're welcome to join us for a digital alumni panel discussion about working and living in Singapore, if you're eager to know some more about working abroad. On October 6th, you will meet with Susanne again, where she's going to share her knowledge on the Swedish job interview and how to prepare for that. If you're interested in a career in Sweden, what to expect, Susanne will tell you all about it on October 20th. On the 27th of October, we have a session called the Introvert Career Advantage. Will be very interesting for those of you who maybe not define yourself as an extrovert job seeker, but still want to, of course, have a successful career. And on November 2nd, we have our second alumni panel discussion digitally about working and living in Brussels this time. So that's something about our upcoming events. All our events and job ads and guides, application guides, and so on are posted on the My Career website, mycareer.lu.se. There are also lots of useful information in our career newsletter. If you're an English-speaking student, you can receive career news, and for Swedish speakers, or those of you who want to practice in Swedish, you're very welcome to subscribe to Karriärtankar, which is the Swedish equivalent. If you're at the end of your studies at Lund University, we truly recommend you to join the alumni network as well. And you can go in and look at lunduniversity.lu.se/alumni to learn some more. This is a perfect way for you to stay in contact with us, with Lund University, and of course get invites to all our exclusive events for alumni, hopefully in the future all around the world as well. Here we go. I have to do some technical stuff with the screen here. Great. I think that's all for me. I will be in the Q&A, and I will hand over the screen to you, Susanne. The screen is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to start sharing my screen so I can get up the PowerPoint here. I haven't learned the fastest way, but it works every time, so I'm sticking to it. I think you can see it right now, but I don't know where we are on the ending of the presentation. There it is. So, welcome today. My name is Susanne Linné. I work here at the Employability team, and we're going to talk a little bit about CV and cover letter for the Swedish job market today. So yeah, let's start. I want to start to talk about a little bit about that. As academic, I think it's important to specialize your CV. If you're looking for a job, looking for a job in a restaurant or that kind of thing, you might hand out the same CV to every cafe, every restaurant. But if you're looking for a job as a graduate right now, or when you will graduate in the summer, it's very important to look at every CV as a new one. And it's also need to reflect your individuality, your background, your skills, and your goals. You have to show who you are, and also the difference between you and your classmates. So the CV is a working in progress always. It changes for the job, it changes if you have done anything new. It changes for the world. I mean, today, of course, it's much more important to have the digital skills than it was 2 years ago, even if it was important then as well. But at least I hadn't even heard about Zoom 2 years ago. And today I can, if I'm looking for a job, I will put in that I'm actually doing webinars, which I didn't do for 2 years. So it's a progress. Always look at your CV as something you work with. And cover letter. So what's the CV for? Different CVs, I think, for different things. Career fairs, right now, most of them are virtual. I mean, today is the first day in Sweden. We go back to our jobs. I think most career fairs this semester will be online, but next semester, who knows? We might be going back to even being on campus with the career fairs. So that's a CV. I mean, and a career fair CV, of course, is something you hand out. But in the digital, of course, it's online as everything else. Another kind of CV is for the recruitment companies and the recruitment systems. A lot of companies today use systems for their CV and recruitment, and they will ask you to fill them in, and you have to do it in their template. LinkedIn is your professional CV online. It's very common in Sweden to use LinkedIn. A lot of recruiters are on LinkedIn. So I recommend you to start a LinkedIn account if you don't have one. And that's also a CV, of course, because you have to put in all your qualifications in there. Job ads, of course. They say for Sweden that is about 10 to 20% of the jobs that are on ads, but I will say that a lot of the jobs who are not on ads is, of course, cleaning, restaurants, that kind of thing. So a lot of the jobs you will be seeking will be job ads, or they will be at the career fairs. Of course, there are also a lot of jobs via networking, but job ads are a part of it, even if it's not the biggest place, but I think for you it will be. And then, of course, you have CV for networking. They might be smaller, and they might be that you talk to people before and then hand in CV, in the difference of having a job ad where you first put in your CV and then you will talk to them in an interview. Networking might be on the other way, that you have connection, you might have some kind of interview, and then you hand in your CV. Spontaneous job application, cold calls, the way when you call or email or contact companies, spontaneous, and ask them if there are any jobs, if you can put in your CV, and so on. So that's a few different ways of how to use your CV, and a lot of them also, of course, your cover letter. So the CV and the cover letter, as I said before, it's about your expertise, it's about your ambition, it's about your credibility. And it's important to understand that a lot of CVs, the recruiter will get a lot of CVs, a lot of applications. So it's very important to, both on the CV and the cover letter, to put on the top of the page the most important thing, the thing that is the most thing for you to say that, well, this is why you should hire me. So you need to strive to that. It's not the only thing they read, but you need to think about it, that they might get 300 CVs and they have to read all of them if it's in a government, but if it's on the private sector, they don't even need to read it. So you need to make the CV and the cover letter interesting from the beginning. So what is a CV? In a Swedish CV, you need to have your contact information. Today is often email and telephone number, especially if you're willing to move. It's not in, people don't put in so often anymore their address. It's more important, you know, email and a phone contact. Also, I think often you put in your LinkedIn link so people can contact you and can look at you up at LinkedIn. I like to have in the beginning best skills or a professional goal, especially if you are an engineer. It's very common to put up keywords in the beginning of the CV, where you put up, especially if you know MATLAB or C++ or those kind of things, what kind of programming you have. But if you're in social science or in business, it can be more like a professional goal, or to give them a little bit of who you are, what you're looking for, what you strive for, and what you have. So of course, that is part of the CV. Education, if you're newly graduated, if you haven't worked a lot, especially if you haven't worked in the business that you're looking for, I think education should be on the top, because that might be your biggest merit. It's just what you are doing right now also. But if you have a lot of work experience and you're doing a master, you have worked in the same field for years, of course your work experience might be on the top. But for most of you, I would recommend education for now. Then when you start working, work experience will be on the top. It's a good thing to put in internships, especially if you don't have a lot of work experience. The internships are work experience in one way. So that's a good thing to show what you have done. Is also, internship is also a way of doing, you know, get the practical experience of all the theory that you have studied here at the university. And you also will put in language skills. In Sweden, it's not that common to use the European standard of A1, A2. Some use it, but often we more use words like fluent or mother tongue or professional, and try to describe the language. I also would say that if you put fluent or professional, you need to be that good that you will do an interview in that language. So you need to be prepared to do that. Of course, computer and IT skills. Most of you here are born into the digital society, but for us who is a little bit older, we still might need to have the information on what you know and what you don't know when it comes to computer program, that kind of things. For Sweden, often we like to understand who you are, what you have done, what you do on your free time. We work a lot in teams. We want to connect. So it's a good thing to put in all the extracurricular activities you have. That could be sport, that can be music. If you are engaged in some of the student union here or some of the student organizations, societies, it's a good thing. Lund is an old and big university, so there might be people who has been in the same club as you who like or just sort of shine up with a smile and remember their study time as well, being a part of a specs or the Lunda Carnival, who is next year, which is the most fun thing to be a part of. But the Lunda Carnival is also, a lot of team building, a lot of business management, a lot of human resource experience. So all of those kinds of activities is also a way to show that you have got experience in different skills that they might be asking for. So I will put that in. And of course, there are the additional qualifications. One of them is, of course, a driver's license, but it can also be other things that you have achieved in different organizations or in your education. So if you want, there can be some personal information or interests. Sometimes it's in the CV, sometimes it's just a few sentences in the end of a cover letter, just to show them a little bit more about who you are as a person. Yes. So, and some tips some more tips about it. I would say don't forget the email. Often if you send into an email address, you also send in an email, and don't forget, to write that well. I got a few of those emails where you don't know who's sending it. You don't even get a hi or a hello. You just like, please tell me this. And that's not very polite, and you don't, get happy to get them. So if you're sending in your CV and cover letter via mail or via somewhere where they like you to write something, like in my career, there is also that kind of thing that you can write in. You can put in your cover letter and you can put in your CV, but you can also write a little text and make that text nice, like, hello, I'm very interested in looking for this job. I just hope, write something nice and write your name under and maybe even your contact information. So don't forget the email. It's a part of showing who you are and how you connect to others. And I mean, today we talk a lot about soft skills. We talk a lot about being flexibility, learning things, being a part of a team, being able to network with people, and all of those things. Don't forget the email. Use action verbs when you describe what you have done. So express what you have done, but tell them. And of course, it will be in reverse chronological order. So the most recent will come first. So what you have done right now in 2021 will be on the top. And then they go 2020, 2019, and so on. And as I said, I say it again, best qualifications on the top. And your best qualification isn't your photo and it isn't your email address. So don't make them big on the front. They can be small. Or make it easy to find what the reader is looking for. A CV is about 2 pages in Sweden. And I think it's really, really important that you make it easy. What are the ads saying or what are they looking for? And is that showing in the CV that you have those qualifications? And is it easy to find that you have them? Because recruiters are as lazy as everybody else, and they read a lot of CVs and they want to see, the first thing, okay, he or she is qualified. Write in the same language as the ad. If it's in English, write in English. If it's in Swedish, write in Swedish. If you can't write in Swedish, call them and ask, is it okay that I will put in this in English? Or is it better that I write it in not that perfect Swedish? Because that can depend on the job and the recruiter. Some people will say, well, you can better send in English then. And so we'll say, well, you made an effort of trying in Swedish, and we like that. So I think that's a good thing to just call and communicate with the recruiters about if you can't write in the same language as the ad. But the overall law of this, rule of this, is write in the same language as the ad. And for those of you who have Googled how to write a CV in Europe and found Europass at the US web pages where this is a place for European, we don't use that in Sweden at all, actually. Some European countries do, and some of them you might come from those countries, so you have the Europass. It's rather easy to make to put the information from a Europass into a CV that is better for the Swedish market, but don't use that template. For those of you who might have been on the Arbetsförmedling, the Swedish employment service, there is something called meritprofil. I don't recommend it at all. Write the normal CV. Use the thing you have from it, but put it in a CV template that is more modern and more suitable. So here is one suggestion for a CV. You can look different. I recommend to look at different CV templates, look what you like. But this is a common, very clean one. As you see, it's just a little bit of color, but it's still very clean. And she has a profile on her, who she is and what she's interested in, and what she's want for that she's a doer. She had put her education first, of course, and then she had her work experience. And you can do like this and write sentences, or you can do more like dot list. It's just a personal taste thing. I often like dots, but I also think it depends on if you tend to write a lot and you can't get your CV into two pages because you write too much, then it might be better to have this kind of dot lists. So there's the work experience and other skills. As I said, this is a part of being at the nation, as you learned. We translate the nation as just student organizations, because of course no English speaker will understand why we have nations in Lund. So that's why also you sometimes need to explain what it is. But also see, she also quantified that the activities include daily lunches, 2 nightclubs a week, and 2 parties per semester for over 400 people. That's a lot of things to manage. So that shows her management skills that she have actually done. So that's a way to write about merits, to put it in action verb and to quantify it. And of course, language, as you see. When you write mother tongue, it might be a good thing to think about what your mother tongue is, because sometimes if you're moved or your parents moved when you were very little, you might not be able to write professional or speak professionally in your mother tongue. Is that the mother tongue is something you talk with your family. So for me, I think it's a good thing sometimes to, and I also think that you can have more than one mother tongue when it comes to talking about a CV. that you can have both Swedish and something else. And I know that some of you come from countries where you might have two or even more languages that you speak fluent. So just think about describing, because people will expect when you talk about mother tongue or fluent that you will be doing, bank everything, write a thesis, have a job interview, speak about almost any subject in that language. So just think about it. And of course, a little bit of IT, social media, it's a good thing to put in. And reference often are by request, because we don't want them to call anyone before we actually have been on an interview. In some places, they will ask for you about the references, because they will want to have them in the computer system, but that's another thing. So before I'm going to take some questions about the CV, I will talk a little bit more about the CV. There's a lot of big discussions about photo. Here in Sweden, it's rather common, but in other countries, there are big debates about discrimination and giving a photo or not. That one is not so big here. I would say most people will have a photo on the CV. Recruiters like it. It's a way for them to remember who you are, but you don't have to have it. I think the only time it's a really, really good thing to have is if you have been on a career fair and you have met and they have seen you and you have given out your CV, because then they might, okay, that was Susanne Linné. Okay, I remember her. Because on the job fair here at Lund University, if you go to the one for business and management, of course, everybody will have business and management on their CV. So that's a good thing of having a photo, but it's not like you will not get a job because of your looks, of course. And as you see in my example, we didn't have a photo. So you don't have to have it, but it's rather common. We don't put birthdays, not personal numbers, especially now with the GDPR. The recruiter doesn't want that kind of information because they need, to have it in the right way then. So no birthdays, no personal, especially not the personal number. Marital status often is not a part of the CV. It can be a part of the cover letter saying, that little personal thing I talked about, that you in the end write like, I'm married and have 2 kids and I like to go hiking in the weekends, but it's nothing that you often put in the CV on the top because it's not your qualification. Often not nationality either if it's not asked for. Of course, if it asks for, are you a citizen, Swedish citizen, or if you're a European citizen, some jobs you must be a citizen, then of course, but otherwise, no. Some of you will have hosts in timelines. You might have been sick, you might be home with your children, you might have been backpacking in Asia. Remember when we did that? You might have, had a child or something. So there can be timeline holes. If you have traveled, I think you can write that in your CV. If you have, been on parental leave, I think also, and you've been there for a year or 2, that can be a good thing to just show why you haven't done anything else. But different generations have different holes. I, who was graduated in the 90s when it was really hard to find a job, almost everybody in my generation has a hole in the 90s. And I think there's going to be a lot of people having a hole for 20 or 21. So it just is what it is. But the recruiter might be asking, and if it's because of sickness or anything else, don't write it in the CV, but you can explain it on the interview, saying, well, this happened. And as I said, the length of a CV in Sweden is 2 pages. In finance and in law, sometimes there are 1. So 1 to 2 is a good thing. Please look at your spelling. It's not a lot of text, and we, change it and change it, and think and change it again. It's very easy to make spelling mistakes in a CV because you get blind on, this small text. So I always recommend to let somebody else read it. I will do it every time I'm looking for a job. I will have somebody look at my CV and cover letter, especially for the spelling and for, not having made some kind of strange text in it. Contact info, as I said, you don't have to have a lot of email and telephone number will be okay, but think also about what kind of email you have. Gangsterrapper47 is not a good email address. Your first and your last name, and then at whatever, Hotmail or Gmail or what you have is fine, or your student address. Also, today I know that we don't phone a lot, but check out how is my answering machine. Is it taking messages? Answer the phone, because people might be calling. References in Sweden, we're going to talk a lot about references when we talk job interview more than a CV, but in Sweden, they are often 2. They will call them after the interview. References are often somebody, a manager or a boss you've been working with, or a co-worker. If you don't have that, it could be a professor, or it can be somebody you work with in the student union, somebody who can tell something about who you are as a person, how you work with others, and of course your skills. But a lot of the reference skills that they will ask for a reference is soft skills. Often they are really expecting that if you have this education, the other skills. So if you don't have Swedish ones, just talk to them about it. We will talk about that more next time. But that's a common reference in Sweden, and not that often written ones. So that was a lot about the CV, and I think we have some questions.
Yes, we do. Gonna see if I get myself. Yeah, my microphone is on. Good. Thank you, Susanne. We have quite a few questions. I'll try to summarize the most popular ones. So quite a few of our listeners are asking for if they want to have feedback on their CV. Is there anywhere they can, at Lund University, they can send it?
Yes, there are. You can send it to me. We can put mine in the career email in the chat. But if you are a student at the business school or a student at the humanities, they have also career. I don't find any words today. They have career offices, and of course they are more specific and more specialized on your CVs. So I would recommend to contact them if you're studying at the business school. You can always send it to me, but as I said, they are more specified specialists on your subjects.
Super.
And if you send it to me, I will say it will take. I'm a little bit behind because I had a lot of them, so it will take a little bit of time, so be patient with me, but I will respond.
Great. So I put that the career email in the chat. We also got a question about why you mentioned you can put, if you have a driver's license, you can put that in your CV. Is that something that is important, or why would an employer like to know that you have a driver's license?
I think if you start to read ads here in Sweden, a lot of them will say if you have driver's license. Of course, it depends on the job, but some jobs might be involved in driving to customers, driving to like other places. So sometimes it actually says that you need to have a driver's license, and then of course you need to put it in. If you don't have a driver's license, well, of course, don't put it in. But it's a rather common thing to put in Sweden. And as I said, in some ads, especially in sales, marketing, that kind of thing, or just, you know, if there are more than one place to work, that might be in the ad asking if you have a driver's license.
Yeah, super. Two questions about references. We have one, is it okay to have references from another country? For example, having phone numbers from a different country, and maybe also a reference that speak another language than the job ad you are applying to, or the employer you're applying to.
Yes, it is. I have asked a lot of recruiters about this because I was interested in that. And often it's another problem. I mean, if they speak English, of course, because that's what Swedes often know as well. Especially if you are, I mean, looking for international jobs, if you're looking for jobs in bigger companies, there's no problem of calling abroad or, you know, having an email contact or probably Zoom these days. So no, that's not a problem when it comes to looking for job where you have a master or a bachelor. Of course, if it's looking for a job in a cafe, they might not call China, but if you're looking for, you know, a traineeship at IKEA, they will do it. And that will be also part of your, I mean, the good thing with you, of course, that you are international. So of course you will have international references. But I know in some countries it's more common that you have written references or that you don't have references at all. I myself sometimes can question the benefit of calling somebody you don't know, asking about the person that you have met on an interview. So I think the reference even in Sweden will change because recruitment is changing a lot.
Yeah. And the second question on references, does references still have to work in the same place as they did when you worked with them, so to say?
No, they don't. The important thing for the reference is that they know something about you and how you work and who you are. So of course they will change as well. Often, I mean, the best thing is, of course, to have a reference who's really new. But for you who have studied, I mean, of course, your reference might be somebody you worked with 5 years ago. And of course, that person also might have been changing their place. So that's not a problem. It's just to write, well, this is the one reference who was my manager at IKEA, but now she or he is on, something else, and that's why the phone number is to that company instead.
And is it good to add visa status in your CV if you're applying, if you're from another country and applying for a job in Sweden?
That's a good question. if you have, I mean, if you allow, I don't think that is a good, I wouldn't put it in, but it might be a good thing to put up in the interview or so, that you're, I mean, allowed to work in Sweden, that's already fixed. That's often not a big problem to get the application for visa if you're not Swedish and non-European citizen for work that requires academic, but I wouldn't put it in.
Okay. And maybe our last CV question at the moment, how shifts in interest, if you have, like, for example, a business background, but now you're currently studying for an IT degree and you're searching, of course, for IT positions, how do you show that in your CV?
First of all, I will put, of course, your master degree first on top. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I want. And that's why I also need the professional goals, that this is what I'm heading in. And then I will look at what have I done before and what can I use from that experience to go to the other. So if you have a business degree and work with business, and then go to the technical part, of course, team leading, marketing, knowing something about how to do a good budget would be great things to have in another job as well. So I will look at the things that you did, and that can be, like I said, more soft skills, project management, easy to learn new things, which is really important nowadays, where everything is, you're learning and learning and learning, everything change. So use those things and put that under the, like I worked here and I use those skills. So then it's more important of what you have learned, what you have for soft skills, than maybe what kind of work you actually did. So that's one way of doing it. And it's also part, I think, of the cover letter, telling the story of, I did this, but now I'm passionate about this instead. This is what I want.
Okay. Thank you. We have a few questions left, but maybe we will save that for later and continue.
Yes, so we will talk about a cover letter. The cover letter is something that shows an employer how you can benefit their business. What can you give them? So that's the thing to think about. A lot of CVs start with what I want. I want this, I want this, I want this. You need to change that to what can I give you? You need to be specific on the employer. The worst thing I hate if we have whatever they send me, if they want to sell me something, or if we are looking for student workers or whatever, and the first line is hello, Uppsala University or something. I mean, look at, okay, what are you looking for a job? And as I said at the beginning, okay, this is my cover letter for this positions. And tell them I are interested in IKEA because of, and I'm interested in looking for this sustainability management position because of, not those broad lines of I'm looking for a job. It's also the place and the opportunity to show your personality, to show them who you are, what you like, what your passion is, what you're good at. And it's also there a place where you can explain things that you can't explain in your CV. As I said, there's the place where you can say, well, I have been home with 4 kids for 2 years, so I'm very good at project management, and having deadlines and taking care of really, really stressful situations. It's also a place where you can talk about, maybe you have an education in, as you said, in law, but you're really passionate about sustainability, and you might be really, active in organization that talks about the environment, that you can have in the CV as well, to show skills or knowledge that might not be in the CV or explained. Or something that might be in your personal name, like being international, that you have moved a lot, or you might have other experiences in your private life that you might be a good thing for this job. So that's the cover letter, and it's about one page. I will rather say 75% of a page, because there's a lot of pages to read for the recruiter, and more is not better at all. And give examples of what you say, at what you are good of. Give example of your strong skills, not your weak skills. This is not a place, this is a selling thing. You're going to sell your personality, sell your skills, sell who you are. So give example of your strong skills. It's nice to end with, just telling them that we're looking forward to meet them. It's also good to have your contact information on your cover letter, because you don't know if they printed out or if you handed them actually in your hand, and they can be lost, so they don't know what cover letter is to what to what CV. And I also recommend to be, as I said, write nice emails. Also think about, I think it's a good thing to do CV and cover letter in PDF. And it's a good thing to name them correctly. Name them CV, and then your first and last name as your surname. So look at it so that you don't have CV that is called this stupid CV or something. So it's easier for them to find it, and that it looks professional. So that's about the cover letter. I think cover letter is rather hard to write. As I said, I recommend everybody to let somebody look at it, not only like me or somebody else, but also like your friends or somebody who can say, well, is this me? What is my best skills? Sometimes it's very hard to think what I'm good at. And the same people that you might think of as references, those are really good to talk with, saying, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think are my strongest skills or strongest, personality? What would benefit on a working place? So yeah, that's a little bit about a cover letter. Any questions about the cover letter?
Indeed, we have. Let's see. Just gonna. What is the difference between a cover letter and a letter of motivation? This person has seen some organizations asking for different things like this.
A letter of motivation is often when you apply for an internship, or if you apply for going abroad, studying, that kind of thing. A cover letter is for a job. And in Sweden, we actually call them personal letters. So that's a hint of what we want. So that's the difference. A letter of motivation is more also often written in the sentence of what motivates you, and what you want to learn. Maybe if you're going abroad and study abroad, or an internship, this is another thing, because it's not only about what you can do for the company, but also if the company can do something for you that you mean be at their workplace and learn or practice the things that you want to practice, to make you come closer to the work market or so. So that's the biggest difference. I also see that some companies right now, like actually we talked a lot about IKEA today, I don't know why, that they might ask of not having a cover letter, but they instead want you to answer 2 or 3 questions, and then you are back closer to motivation letter, because sometimes motivation letter as well are answer these questions like how you want to work, why do you want to work here, so that's the difference. And I see that, and I think that can be sometimes easier to write, to just answer the questions that the company wants, but that will be in the ad if they are doing that.
Super. If you're writing the cover letter in Swedish, does it mean that they need to have the interview in Swedish as well?
Probably. Because if the audience is in Swedish and they're looking for Swedish speaking, the job interview will be in Swedish. But if you don't speak that well, or you're very uncomfortable, or think that, okay, I have enough Swedish, but I'm still like very nervous, or I have a hard time sometimes to express all my professional, give them a call, talk to them, discuss this. They might be interested anyway. I think it's really important to network when it comes to this kind of questions, because one recruiter will say, well, we need to have the interview in Swedish because the job is in Swedish and you have to speak perfect Swedish. And in some jobs, it's like, well, it's good to have Swedish. But the working language is English. So I will communicate with them about these kind of things.
Yeah.
And as I said, some people want it in perfect English instead, and some really love the effort that they have tried to write it in Swedish. And that's just something you need to talk about with them, so you know who to do which with.
Photo in cover letter, yes or no?
No, I will if you put a photo, I will put it in the CV.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion. I recommend you to look at different kind of CVs. A lot about this is not a course in an academic subject. This is a CV, and cover letter is a lot about opinions and what people like. And I don't like CV. I don't like photo in the cover letter. I think it's better to have in the CV if you have a photo in it.
Yeah. We have some general questions. I think maybe it applies for both the cover letter and the CV, and some CV questions left as well. Let's see here. Some practical about the CV actually. In which format should we mention time periods? Here's a person who had a lot of internships during her bachelor's. Should she summarize them or list them one by one in her CV? And should that be exact dates then?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I think like this: if you have had a lot of internships, it doesn't matter the date. I mean, you can only put it in like in this. If it's a part of your education, you can put it under your education and list that you have had this. If you like, your education is from 2018 to 2021, you can put in that you have had 4 months of internships here, 1 month of internship there, and so on. if you have a lot of extra jobs, which I had when I studied, I worked at the post office, I worked in a factory, I worked in a restaurant. I put them together and just wrote service because it wasn't that interesting which cafe or which post office I was working at. But it was, I work with service and I work with machines, operating machines. And the only why I wanted that in my CV was, of course, that I wanted to show, first of all, that I will be working, but also that working in the service industry is also always, in any kind of job you are working, you're looking for, it's always good to have been working with service. But if there is a lot of dates, you can put them together and just, be showing. I think the most common then in Sweden is also that you write year and month and not days so often, but year and month. Yeah.
Let's see. Also about the whole application appendix or the documents, should there be a written letter of reference from previous managers in your application, or should there only be contact details?
Only contact details. Everything, especially if you're looking for a job like in a university or any kind of government, they need to save everything. So they are often not happy to get any kind of paper, any kind of documents that they haven't asked for. So I will not send in anything that they haven't asked for. The only time I will put in that kind of thing is maybe if you're looking for jobs in, as I said, a service business is something that you can hand out directly and say, they like me. I worked before at Espresso House and they really liked me. But for others, it's not that common to give those kind of examples. And if you really want to do it because you really think that that's what's showing that you are the best, as I say, the same thing, contact the recruiter, say, is it okay for me to hand in this written references as well, and see what they say. And if you have a lot of them, or they ask for, a portfolio, or they ask for your grades or something like that, I will put everything in one PDF file. So they only have one. And let's call it, your name. So you make it easier for them to save it and to have it in their recruitment system. Make it easy for them.
Yeah, thank you. We have a few questions about, there's one person writing, she's using social media to talk about mental health and public health. That's her background and field of expertise. If she should include that in her CV or put that somewhere else. And I think I will just add, let's see, did we have something? I thought we also had a question about a similar like interests and awards, winning some national level awards, organizational level achievements and such. Should that be in the CV or should that be on a LinkedIn profile or similar?
If it's something that has to do with what the job you're looking for, I think you should have it in the CV. There's not a lot of scholarships and that kind of thing that you get in Sweden, as I know in other countries. I wouldn't put in things that you have rewarded for, like in high school or something like that. I think it needs to be on a university level, or if it's. But of course, if you have done very great in sports and that kind of thing, I would put it in, just to show that you're an achiever. When it comes to having a blog or being active in social media, if it's a part, as I said, the same, if you are in public health and you are, or if you are in business management, but really, really interested in public health, or as you said, it's a good thing to show that you have got the knowledge, even if it's not in your education. And also, of course, if you are in strategic communication or in any kind of communication, it's always good to show that you have experience of social media, as long as it's not party things, because that's never interesting from the employer. But if it's more like you're having an Instagram account or something that's really professional, I will put it in as to show that what you do. But I think it needs to have to do with what you're looking for kind of job, or that it shows that you are good in social media.
Yeah, we actually have a question about social media as well. If you have decided not to engage in any digital platforms, getting social media skills, actually not maybe having an online presence, is that something that can be disadvantage in your application?
It depends on your study. If you are in strategic communication and you haven't worked with social media, it's a problem. If you are an engineer looking for, if you're going to build buildings, that's not a problem. I was in a seminar with one human research person, and they asked, is it important to be active on LinkedIn? And she said, well, if you're looking for a job, where it's important to be active on LinkedIn. So for me, who is in HR, I need to learn things. I need to understand how how recruitment changes over time. It's important to be active, read a lot in LinkedIn. But of course, if you are a doctor or a nurse, it's not important at all. And also, I always recommend to close some of your social media, the personal ones like Facebook, Instagram, if it's just like, taking picture of your, like my Instagram is just about my family, my dogs. It's not interesting for employer. I don't have any party pictures, but I do hope that you have some party pictures. So I recommend to close those, and of course, having a LinkedIn where you have your professional. But for some educations, it's not that important as this is from others. And you can have a LinkedIn profile that is looking good, and that you can go into LinkedIn for the recruiters to see you, and you can go in there looking for jobs, and you don't have to be active. Put it on writing things, just, showing that you are there.
Yeah, super. Let's see, we have a question about the cover letter. It says, do you mean I have to focus writing from my work experiences in terms of their job description only? Or can it also be general qualifications, general qualities as well in your cover letter? Or should that be specifically from the employer's perspective?
I will focus on the one that is in the ad, and then I will write about the general. Of course, there are general things that might not be in the ad. But often today, even those kind of skills are in the ad that they need. I think it's not a lot of ads today that don't say we want somebody who is flexible or a team worker or so on. Sometimes you might have experience, like you have worked in one program, computer program, and that might be almost the same as the one they're looking for. Then you can write that it's almost the same. Then of course you can write it in. But I will look at the ad, because they will do, especially the one always the one that says that you need to have, because they will look at the CV and the cover letter and look at, okay, does she or he has that qualification? So it has to show up. But then, of course, you can have qualifications that's not in the ad, what you think would be a benefit for the employer, and then you can put it in as well. But first of all, always focus on what the ad says. Well, you have to have, because if it's not in the CV or in the cover letter, they will probably not call you for an interview.
If you are looking for, or if you're a current student or you're doing your master's degree, for example, and you're currently applying for an internship, but has a previous experience of being a manager in your current earlier jobs, earlier career, is that something that can be a disadvantage? Would that, so to say, scare employers giving you internship if you're a bit maybe, what to say, overqualified for an internship position?
I think it depends on the company. For somebody, it might be, the smaller the group, the more it can maybe be a problem of coming from that. But I mean, it's still often, it is a part of, either you have changed the subject or you are moving to another country. So you have something that you want to learn. And management is another thing than working with. I mean, it's a different thing of being a nurse and management a nurse. So I think it's a good thing to just be honest with it, and it's not an uncommon situation that you have been working in your home country and you might have been advanced and then you move here and you need to start up on another level, or that you have changed subject and that's why you are not in management position, or you might not want to be in the management position anymore. And then you can write that, I think, that you're looking for another kind of career. I want to be a specialist, because I mean, that's also common on the Swedish workplace, that you stop being a manager and go back to being a specialist instead.
Yeah, super. A question about contact information to the recruiter. Is it a good thing trying to be in touch with the recruiters with possible questions? Should we do that before or after applying for a job? And yeah, pretty much, is it a good thing to contact them with no matter what kind of questions you have about the job?
Well, not whatever question, but I think if it's not something you don't understand in the ad, or as we are talking about language skills or maybe professional skills, I think it could be a good thing to call them or be in contact, look them up at LinkedIn and just see who they are. I think it's a good way of showing interest in the situation and in the job. But calling and have nothing to say, of course, that's a problem. Sometimes it's a good thing to call. I think the best is actually to call before your application. You applicate, because then you can change things in your application if you're in that talk, get some kind of information. Sometimes when people write ads, they forget something, things change. Sometimes it might, be a job, be out networking, and it can be a good thing to, if you have been talking to the manager, it might be a good thing to talk to the HR, who might have other things that they want to, put in the application. And nobody calls these days. So I think it's a nice thing to connect. Emailing, it can be a good thing. But you need to have something relevant to talk about with it.
Great. I think we have time for one final question. Maybe this is the $1 million question as well. If you're a student, quite young student, and you haven't been able to gather so much work experience, because you've started studying pretty early, and what are the things you should consider now when you're a student, things you should do, and how to have filled CV even without a lot of work experience? What are your advice on that, Susanne?
My advice is Sweden is a place full of organization. We organize everything. If you just come here, you will realize nobody is playing football, but they are playing football in an organization, in a football club. People like to sing, but they will do it in a choir. I would be thinking about being a part of an organization with the things that I'm interested in. It could be a student union, it could be student organizations, there's a lot of those. It could be another one with what you're interested in, what you like to job with. If you're interested in sustainability, join Greenpeace. If you're interested in human helping people, join the Red Cross and so on. Or if you have things that you think that you want to, if you're really into programming your free time, I also recommend to be a part. I don't have it on this webpage, but the university also have Venture Lab, which is a way of sharing and connect if you have a great idea to start your own business. And it's rather easy to do that while you're a student, because you already, have your paycheck. It's already organized. So I would recommend that. They are also often helping people to connect. So if you really like to do apps, but you have no idea of how to write the business plan, they might connect you with a student from the business school who only wants to write business plans, but have no idea of what the company should be about, or somebody who wants to work with human resources and so on. So I think that, and I've seen a lot of students doing very great in starting. It don't need to be a big business. It doesn't need to be successful, but it's a way of showing that I have practiced my skills of what I'm studying. So I recommend that if you don't find a job, if you don't, or doing volunteer. But of course, you need to have time for study. You always need to have time for study, but it's also a way of learning and meeting Swedes, because I know a lot, and that's a way of networking. That we often do that in some kind of organizations or clubs. So that's what I always recommend for anyone. And it's the first network. So Venture Lab, if you would like to start your own, or just need to contact other students who like to start your own, or just join an organization, because that's the most common way to do things in this country. Don't you agree, Maria?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think it's also an opportunity to learn the language and get in touch with other people than students as well. I think that's to build your network and meet some people out of academia as well. So absolutely, that's good advice. I've also added some of the links, the LinkedIn information or articles for students, how to use LinkedIn as a student. And also, of course, the alumni network. Join it if you're close to your graduation.
And I have some LinkedIn's here for my career. The first is there is some kind of CV template via your account. And there's also a lot of articles, both in Swedish and English. So even if this link says Swedish, there will be a lot of articles in English about CV. There's also one for CV examples from the sweden.se webpage. For the cover letter, there is at Babbla, there are phrases and applications, phrases for English, how you write them in English or how you write them in Swedish. So I think that can be a good inspiration page when you are writing in a language that is not your first language. It can be, so if you're struggling of how should I write in Swedish, or if you're struggling how should I write in English, I think this could be just an inspiration page.
Yeah, great.
That's all I have for today.
Yeah.
And of course, we will always talk about my career, where there's also a lot of career fairs. There's one next week for people who are women or people who identify them as women who are looking for job with companies who's really interested in diversity. And then I think there is the EEE days for business management, and then there is one for traineeships, graduate programs. So I would recommend to go into my career events, to go to different career fairs. And I think you can talk about the alumni network.
Yes, I think we're stealing some time now, but yeah, go in and have a look at the website if you're interested and if you're at the end of your studies. Yeah, so great. Thank you to everyone listening. And get the links from the chat. We will have the Zoom room open a little bit longer, just maybe a minute or so. And you will receive the recording, an email to the recording. And will you share your slides as well, Susanne?
Of course, we will send out the slides as well.
So thank you, and have a good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Susanne.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.